Hey everybody, what's going on? Fallout here, back at the desk, and we're doing another exotic review video today, pretty much reviewing and ranking every exotic piece of armor in the game for the hunter. We did our Warlock video a little while back. If you didn't check that video out, I'll put one of those things in the top left corner of the video, one of those iCards, or link it down in the video description. You can go check it out. And because that video got enough likes, I said I would do either Titan or Hunter next, and here we are getting ready to do the Hunter. So a couple quick things. If you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe to the YouTube channel. I think we're getting pretty close to 400K. If we get 400,000 subs before the end of October, I'll do something special. I don't know what that would be, but I'll do it. We'll figure it out and I'll do it. And a couple people had wondered and DM'd me, hey, how come there's no official, I mean, you review every exotic for the Warlock in the Warlock video. Where is the official picture for every armor's spot in the tier list for PvE, and where is the tier list picture for PvP? We don't do the actual official picture of the tier list because it's kind of the same reason I stopped doing shotgun videos a while back. Is because people kind of just immediately comb through them, and no one watches the video. People just kind of skim through the timeline and they look for the picture where it's like, oh, that's the one hit kill range of the shotgun, and then they screenshot the picture, and then that's what they take away, and they put that on Twitter and they put it on Reddit. they don't even listen to the explanation of what I'm talking about. They just look for the picture. So we will rank and put everything in the proper tier list, but the picture will be in your mind because I want people to actually hear my reasoning of why X piece of armor is top tier or why Y piece of armor is bottom tier. So that's what we're going to do. And quick note that, every piece of exotic armor for every class in the game can do well in PvE and PvP. I have to be very careful with how I phrase things in these videos. It's the same reason why Dado never records a video off the cuff the way I'm doing right now. He'll always make sure everything's very well written, because if he misspeaks even one time, then, someone's going to try and put a bunch of clips together. You said it was low tier, but I got a multi-kill with it, something like that. So yeah, everything can put in work. Everything can do well. It's just that some things are easier. They'll either have a higher ceiling potential, or they're easier to perform with right out the box. So glad I got all that out of the way. We are going to now review every piece of Hunter exotic armor in the game for both PvE and PvP. We'll have timestamps down below if you want to jump to any particular piece of armor. But before we get going, a quick word from the sponsor of today's video. Hey, you watching today's video. Did you know that only true baller Sigma Chad gamers play free-to-play mobile games? It's actually true, which is why you need to hear about
Raid Shadow Legends.
Sorry, had something in my throat. It's available to play on both PC and mobile, and not only does Raid have over 600 champions right now, many of them extremely, great, but they also have a lot of fun bosses like Sir Galarath, Guardian of the Arcane Keep. Even though he's apparently a noble paladin of some kind, he's guarding arcane potions, so why don't we quickly review how to clap his cheeks. One of his main attacks is Wind Slash, which, if you didn't know, deals extra damage to your champions if they don't have any kind of buff applied. Therefore, just whip out any champion who can apply a team buff to your gang, and booyah. Make sure you prioritize Galarath's minion though, who intentionally tries to rip away all of your team buffs. Prioritize that sucker and you're good to go. What I actually really like about Raid is that, one, I do legit think that the character designs are very good. Whenever I use a shard to unlock a new champion, I'm eager to find out if it's a new one that maybe I haven't seen before. Thing number two I like is that the game comes with an autoplay button. I've legit had days where I've needed to do busy work, so I can just pop open Raid and auto grind in the background. Handy feature, and I wish that more games had it. This month, Raid's got a non-stop schedule of events and activities, including a jam-packed Halloween lineup towards the end of October. I'm talking big rewards, tournaments against other players, special fragment events to get some brand new legendary legendary champions, including a spooky Halloween champion, and much, much more, so don't miss out on the fun. If you want to get a head start over the jabronis that don't watch my channel, all you gotta do is hit the link in the video description or scan the QR code right here. New players will get an epic hero, Shinobu, aka my Halloween waifu, who is quite good in the Doom Tower, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion right when you get in-game. You'll find your rewards right over here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. When you're in-game, you can find me under the name Fall Uwoot because, of course. Again, check the link in the video description and I'll see you in-game. Alright, welcome back to the content. We are going to go through each piece of armor as they appear in the collections, and we are going to kick things off with the Knucklehead Radar. So starting with ranking and viability for PvP. The Knucklehead Radar is definitely viable in PvP. It's going to kind of depend on the player. Of course, if you give it to a very good player, the ceiling potential is very high. I mean, the Knucklehead Radar, it's really good for weapons like sniper rifles, or right now the Lorentz Driver is really absurdly, probably too strong in PvP. And one of the only real weaknesses of the Lorentz Driver is if you're really scoped in and you kind of get those horse blinders on, you're not really sure if someone could be flanking you or something like that. And if they ever do nerf the Stompees, which we will get to later, believe me, a lot of other exotic armor will go up in viability. And I think that the Knucklehead Radar is pretty good for what it provides. It's not incredibly OP. It'll just give you, radar when you're aiming your gun, and you get that enhanced radar. It can really help you become more aware and less flankable, which can be very helpful in endgame PvP. If you're a wielder of, Ace of Spades, which is a top tier primary, then the Knucklehead will do next to nothing for you unless you're pairing it together with a sniper or something else that you're putting those horse blinders on. So not incredibly wild, but I would say absolutely viable with a minimum probably of mid tier, and the highest it would go would probably be high tier for me. But yeah, absolutely usable in PvP. For PvE though, I would definitely rank it bottom of the barrel tier. Like, the Knucklehead Radar was not designed with PvE in mind. It was really designed for PvP. There's probably not going to be any real situation. I can't imagine that anyone would be going into a dungeon, a day one raid, Grandmaster Nightfall. Oh, make sure someone brings the Knucklehead Radar. It's not going to happen. In the PvE chart, you're wearing it for fashion, or you're a new player. You're not wearing it all. Next up, we have the Celestial Nighthawk, really badass looking helmet. I'll read you the perk. Modifies Golden Gun to fire a single high damage shot. Enemies damaged by the shot will explode and give you super energy. So as you can imagine, on the PvP side of things, the Nighthawk is pretty much ranked, low tier, bottom of the barrel tier. It's one of those things where Bungie clearly designed it not for PvP. So if you go into PvP and you're wearing the Nighthawk, either you kind of forgot to change your armor from a PvE activity, or you think it looks really cool, or you're trying to make a statement in Mayhem. I've heard that meme a lot on Twitter. People are like, it's not about being efficient. It's about sending a message. You don't really want to lose your multi-shot ability in PvP due to the Nighthawk. I mean, you already have the ability to counter even very beefy roaming supers with the Nighthawk, with the Golden Gun, if you either just do a well-placed shot on bottom tree, or if you just spam the bejesus out of them on top tree. So low tier for PvP, in my opinion. In PvE, the Celestial Nighthawk is without question high tier at minimum, but arguably top tier. So the amount of extra damage that it gives you on a shot, I think, is an extra 500%. So you're losing your extra shots, but you're getting a 500% extra damage one-shot golden gun, which is really good. Bungie would categorize that as burst damage, which is, anytime you're doing in a short window of time, you're just doing a buttload of damage output on whatever type of enemy. So most people pair Nighthawk together with the bottom tree gunslinger. You can take advantage of line them up. You get the headshot. It lets you get headshot damage with your golden gun. So incredibly viable for PvE. You need a little extra oomph with taking out a champion in the Grandmaster Nightfall, or there's like a mini boss or something in a dungeon. It's a very easy way to just quickly activate and put out a ridiculous amount of damage very shortly, and then go back to whatever type of weapon damage that you're doing. So super viable for PvE if you're a newer player. Keep your eye peeled for the Nighthawk. Very good for endgame PvE activities. Okay, next we have the Foetracer helmet. And the perk we have here visually marks targeted enemies and deals more damage to low health marked enemies. I wish this were more viable in PvP. I understand why it's not. If it were any more viable, it's kind of teetering on the edge of becoming one of those pieces of armor that everybody would wear if it were a little bit better. Right now in PvP, I would rank it middle tier to high tier max, depending on who is wearing the helmet and what loadout they have on. So let me explain the numbers behind the helmet real quick. So for the first part, visually marking targeted enemies. For PvP, that is by far the best part of the Foetracer helmet, by far. So if you have an enemy marked, kind of like you ADS your weapon and look at them, you now have a little tracker on them. So even if they move away from you, they go behind cover, they go behind a wall, they run into the other room, you're going to still see them marked. It's going to stay with them for about 5 seconds. And that's pretty good. If it were any longer, again, that would be very, very silly. The wall hack vision. If you're in endgame PvP, like especially trials or, comp, but nobody plays comp. If you're in trials, the ability to keep track of where an enemy is going. Are they jumping up around the corner to engage you? Are they about to peek with a, primary or whatever? If you have a really good sniper on your team who is taking advantage of the visually marked target abilities, you could actually do really incredible plays with this piece of armor. But even still, not a lot of people wear it very often, just because, I don't know, I feel like very aggressive players, you kind of already know, if you have thousands of hours into D2, I mean, you've seen it all before in PvP, right? You kind of have a general idea of, oh, they're going to challenge, they're going to retreat, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But even still, the ability to know literally exactly what your enemy is doing for 5 seconds, very strong in the hands of a very talented player. If it were any longer than 5, it would probably be a problem. And the second part of dealing more damage to low health marked enemies, that part is borderline worthless in PvP, but I can understand why. If that part were any more powerful, that too would be OP. So the number on that is that low health enemies will take, I believe, around 29% more damage, which you're thinking, whoa, that sounds really good. Like a weak enemy, they're going to take more damage. But the problem is that it will only kick in when your enemy in PvP literally is on death's doorstep. Like they have to be pretty much no health at all. Now, if we lived in a world where you maybe had a 140 RPM hand cannon and you could do, normally with a 140 RPM hand cannon, you have to shoot him 3 times in the dome, right? 3 times in the dome, you get a kill. But if Foetracer, if it took that to 2 headshots and then they were weak enough where the extra damage factor would kick in and you could finish them with a body shot, that would be cracked, but that is not the case. Again, they literally have to be about to die. So I went into a PvP private lobby and I was, tickling my buddy with an SMG in the body for, I think, like 16 damage per shot. And then on the final bullet that put him in the ground, the body shot damage from the SMG went from 16 to 17, which is, it's nothing, right? It's literally nothing. So nobody uses it for that second part. If you're a new player, don't get baited into thinking, oh wow, I'll do a lot of extra damage and I'll kill somebody quicker. It's probably not going to touch your time to kill at all. People really only wear it for that first part. And yeah, so I would rank it probably around mid-tier. If you're a really cracked sniper who wants to read where people are going, then it could be potentially high tier, but I would put it probably more towards middle tier for PvP. For PvE, being able to deal an extra 29% more damage to enemies is cool, but again, only when they're very low health. It's kind of lame. I think if the extra damage factor were to kick in way earlier, so not if they're about to die, if they were at like medium health, or I don't know, even like if they had like 1/3 of their health bar left, now that would be interesting. But I think a lot of people would probably take big advantage of that for day one raids, just because the desperation that a lot of teams have in a day one raid activity, trying to deal just a smidge more damage to any mini boss, any boss. Yeah, you're not going to see Foetracer a lot in PvE. I think most people would rather equip something different, maybe. Right now, I wouldn't rank Foetracer very high for PvE at all. Next up, we have the Graviton Forfeit, one of the cooler looking helmets in the game. I'll read you the exotic perk here. Increases the duration of any invisibility effect. While you're invisible, your melee will recharge quicker, your weapons will reload quicker, and your recovery is greatly increased. So the Graviton Forfeit for the Hunter, for both, I'll go through each PvP and PvE, but it's very high tier for both. So for PvP, again, high tier. On your top tree camo hunter build, I think the default camo duration is 5 seconds, and then if you have Graviton turned on, it'll be 7 seconds. Now I know that an extra 2 seconds doesn't really seem like a lot, but in PvP, it definitely is. And the fact that you're getting your camo every time you hunter dodge, which can be very frequently, I mean, you're pretty much getting your hunter dodge back in PvP almost immediately if you're speccing your hunter the right way, i.e. high mobility, maybe a utility kickstart mod, maybe 2 utility kickstart mods. You're going to get your hunter dodge back very frequently. And being able to get 7 seconds of camo on demand, you're going to be a little bit more relaxed. Like normally when you're trying to make a play when you're a camo hunter, you might be feeling a little bit rushed because like you have that short window of time. You're like, I really need to move right away to make a play. And sometimes the enemy team can see that coming. But if you have Graviton, you have a little bit extra, extra time on your hands. And with Bottom Tree, by the way, which is the other camo that a lot of people abuse fairly frequently, your default time goes from 7 seconds to 11, which is really generous. Now, you're not going to get to take advantage of that camo as much because with Top Tree, again, all you really need to do is dodge, which simple. But on Bottom Tree, you need to have kind of a high strength build. And, I mean, you could pair together with the Gambler's Dodge, right? Where if you dodge near somebody, you get your melee back. But yeah, 11 seconds of camo in PvP is really, really good. And remember that when you're invisible with Graviton, your melee is going to come back quicker. So if you're speccing your hunter so that every time you throw your bomb, you have an armor mod, another one of those melee kickstart or something that you're going to get your melee energy back quickly. Also, Graviton is going to give you your melee charge much quicker. You can really make other teams borderline cry if you're going to start trolling them with the Graviton Forfeit. Of course, the weapon reload speed coming in clutch and the extra recovery, it's all gravy for the hunter with the Graviton Forfeit. And that extra window of time, you don't feel rushed as much. You feel like you can maybe pause a little bit. Because when you're the enemy team and you hear that noise of a hunter going camo, you're instantly on edge. You're looking around like, okay, where are they, right? You want to know, because you think that they're about to make a play immediately, because that's usually the MO for the hunter. You go camo, now we're going to try and push aggro and get a flank or throw them off their game. But with this, you can kind of put the enemy team on tilt a little bit more, because either 7 seconds on top tree, 11 on bottom tree, you can make them sweat. You can make them sweat a little bit. And radar evasion in PvP, if you haven't tried it in a while, I know that, you know, mostly, I don't know. People normally lean on a couple things very hard in D2 PvP, one of them being their radar. And although being camo won't completely remove you from the radar, it will remove you enough to the point where you could throw off the enemy team's game. Like, they're going to be confused, they're going to be a little tilted, they're going to play differently, they're going to be looking for you. If you haven't done camo in PvP for a while, I think it is definitely worth a try, and Graviton is just like, it's just beautiful, so strong, requires very little thought. You know, you don't have to do anything specific or crazy. It's just, hey, you like camo? Well, here's a little bit longer camo. Here's better recovery and better reloading, and your melee comes back quicker. It just does everything for you. It's really strong right out of the box. And for PvE, again, very high tier, borderline top tier. So if you're a hunter, especially in a Grandmaster Nightfall, but, you know, in a dungeon, in a raid, whatever, being able to take advantage of camo is crucial, because, you know, especially if you're a solo player, I mean, that's not usually recommended for for anyone. I've soloed Grandmaster Nightfalls in D2. Not fun. But even if you're on a team, being able to go camo is huge, because let's say your teammates die in a GM Nightfall, you're the last one alive. If you die, everybody gets sent back to orbit, right? Nobody wants that. So what do? You take advantage of camo and you hide and make sure that the AI doesn't find you, nobody kills you, or, you know, ground pounds you while you're trying to get a revive. You want to get a safe, clean revive. Camo can help you do that. And we're going to go over a couple pieces of armor today, and all of them are very good. I think they're all kind of in direct competition with each other. There might be one winner that shines a little bit brighter than the other two or the other three, which we'll get to. But if you're a newer player and you maybe don't have those pieces of armor, the Graviton will do fine. It'll do just fine. So absolutely, absolutely high tier for PvE and for PvP. It's just a terrific high-ranked piece of armor all around. Next, we have the Wormhusk Crown, and it's kind of a goofy-looking piece of armor, but I'll read you the perk here. Dodging will give you a small health and shield bump. So back in the day, when the Wormhusk Crown first made its initial debut, it was really very, very strong. It had to get dialed back a little bit. People were complaining about it a lot. It's sort of, there's a lot of things that PvP players don't really want to deal with, and one of them is the ability to instantly regenerate pretty much any amount of health. The only reason that Devour Warlocks don't get complained about as much is because they have to really take time to charge up and eat that grenade. But the Hunter Wormhusk Crown is kind of a different breed, because, again, we know that the Hunter dodge can charge very, very quickly, just a matter of seconds, and you will get your dodge back. So in PvP, I would put the Wormhusk Crown at high tier, just because it doesn't really require a lot of thought. The Hunter dodge is a very strong borderline OP ability. It breaks aim assist. It comes back very quickly. People use it all the time. It's literally a get out of jail free card. So if you're running into an engagement, you want to challenge a lane, and you overstep, right? You overplay your hand. You go into the lane too far. Oh no, there's 2 snipers hard scoping me. You can just Hunter dodge right back around that corner that you came from. It's literally a get out of jail free card, and the Crown gives you the ability to also regenerate health instantly, which very strong. So you can use the Wormhusk defensively or offensively. So if another team is trying to push you, maybe they've 2-tapped you with a hand cannon, and In that case, you know, against a good player, if they get you weak and you're on the retreat, they're going to try and collapse and finish you off. So with the Wormhusk, you can know that even though they're pushing in to try and, quote, finish you, you have a better chance of living through the ordeal because one dodge, bam, you got a bunch of health back. So now you're not as immediately finishable. They can't simply jump around a corner and try to, you know, chaperone you from double the range because, oh, you're already weak, so it's just going to finish you off. And you can use it offensively too. So if you're killing a bunch of people in PvP, let's say you're pushing in and trying to get a team wipe in trials, you get one person dead and the other two are right nearby, but they've hurt you. You know, sometimes you may have to chill and wait for your health to come back before you can push with your team. But if you have Wormhusk, you can just immediately dodge, boom, now you're healthy again, and you can immediately continue the charge with your team without needing to worry about it as much. So definitely ranked high tier, super easy to take advantage of. In my opinion, not a lot of thought at all. In PvE, I would rank it as viable, but I do think that traditionally, if you're trying to stay alive in a PvE activity, I think most experienced players are probably going to lean on camo abuse, which we've already kind of briefly talked about with the Graviton. So not that the Wormhusk Crown is bad in PvE, it's definitely not. Like, if you can't really think of another exotic to put on, there's nothing really wrong with putting on the Crown because, hey, nobody likes dying in a PvE activity. If you know, maybe if you're playing a different class, if you're trying to not take advantage of camo, maybe if you're trying to take advantage of something else, but you still want that survivability factor, you can definitely put on the Crown, get a little bit of extra health. But I do think that for teams trying to stay alive in very challenging end game activities, usually they're going to rely on camo abuse. If you're a mid-tree void hunter, i.e. a spectral blade main, consider putting on the Wormhusk Crown, because if you didn't know, it will give you your health back if you dodge in your Spec Blade super, which is very, very strong. So Spec Blade, already one of the stronger supers in PvP, one of the better roaming supers, and the fact that you can become that much more of a nuisance to kill, you could in theory get your Spec Blade fully charged, open up your menu, put on the Wormhusk Crown if you want to be that much more of a bastard and harder to kill. And know before you ask, if you're a Arc Staff hunter where you can spam dodge, it's not going to give you your health for Arc Staff because you can spam dodge. But with Spec Blade, you're not really able to spam dodge. You know what I mean? It's going to eat up your dodge ability every time you do it. So that is why you're able to get health from the Crown in PvP with Spec Blade, but not other roaming supers. So it's just food for thought. It's a very devastating combo. Next, we have the Assassin's Cowl, which I love the way it looks. I don't know why, but I just do. Powered melee final blows will grant invisibility and restore a portion of your health and shields. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets will increase the duration of invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. So for PvP, the Cowl is definitely viable, but I wouldn't put it as top tier. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with the Cowl. I think the invisibility duration is 9 seconds, give or take, which isn't bad. It's better than default top tree Void Hunter, just dodging into regular camo. And you can pair it with things fairly well if you're a top tree Arc Strider main, which I don't think there are too many. I know my boy Drewski plays actually a lot of top tree Arc Strider in PvP. But the fact that you have access to combination blow and combat flow where you can, and deadly reach where you dodge, you get your melee back, you get the longer melee reach, you get the stronger melee. Top tree Arc Strider, all about meleeing people. So you can take advantage of the Cowl and get that clutch 9-second invisibility. Always interesting to get invisibility on a class that is not a Void Hunter, right? So you can do that, and again, people lean on their radar very heavily in PvP, so they could get very tripped up if you're an Arc Hunter and they're like, whoa, 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 did that guy go camo? Like, what's going on? You know, you're gonna put them on tilt a little bit. And also, if you're a bottom tree gunslinger and you have that very fun one shot in the dome weighted knife, you can get camo gunslinger, which is really, really funny to think about. So I think there is definitely potential there. It could be, I would put it probably at mid tier, but in the hands of a very good player, I could absolutely put it high tier. There's just is a little bit of a skill curve. Not everybody would be able to put on the cowl. New players for sure would not be able to put on the cowl and immediately reach the ceiling potential of what it would be capable of doing in PvP. For PvE, the cowl is absolutely viable. You got to be careful though, because in endgame PvE, I mean, the enemies have a buttload of health and they hit you really, really hard, especially because you have to get within melee range or finisher range. You have to be careful because they can ground pound you across the map and you'll slam into a wall and then bam, you're dead, you know? But the good news is you get camo, which is great in endgame PvE. You get health and shields back immediately, which is really good. I know a lot of people who do use the cowl in endgame, or at least they used to use the cowl in endgame PvE activities. The viability may have gone down due to the existence of the Aeon, which we'll get to a little bit later, being incredibly good. I mean, if you're going to finish an enemy in an endgame PvE activity, if you do it with the cowl, you get invisibility and you get health, which is great. But if you do it with the Aeon, you can get free heavy ammo for the team. And if you're weighing the two back and forth, I think a lot of people would think that the heavy ammo would probably carry you a lot further because, yeah, 9 seconds of camo or free heavy ammo for everybody. So, I mean, whatever you think is better for you. The cowl is definitely viable in PvE, but I wouldn't put it as high as the Aeon, which we'll get to a little bit later. Next up, we have the Mask of Bakris, which design-wise might be my favorite piece of hunter armor ever made. Incredibly cool, super edgy, hot topic kind of vibe, looking like a scarecrow from Batman. But let's read the exotic perk. We have replaces your Stasis subclass dodge ability with a longer range, faster moving shift, i.e. kind of like a mini teleport, that partially cloaks you when you activate it. After shifting, your arc weapons will deal increased damage to combatants for a short time, and you deal increased damage to all slowed or frozen combatants. So for PvP, the Mask of Bakris is quite good. I would put it minimum high tier, and in the hands of someone who really has control over their hunter movement, I would put it top tier. It's incredibly good for PvP. But the downside is that it's very high risk, high reward. When you use the teleport from Bakris, there is an instant delay on your dodge's ability to recharge. So you're trading in dodge frequency for a much stronger, more powerful movement tool. So I think after you dodge, I want to say it's about 10-ish seconds, maybe less, before your dodge energy even begins to recharge. So you're going to be able to dodge less frequently, but your dodge is way crazier. That short range teleport can really trip people up. They'll get very confused. You can use it to close the gap almost immediately, teleport up to somebody with a chaperone. It can be super brutal in the hands of somebody who knows how to play Hunter very well. We know that in December, the Shatter Dive ability is getting nerfed. We don't know to what degree it'll get nerfed to, and it could hurt the viability of the Revenant Hunter overall. But who knows? Maybe Revenant will still be top tier for PvP, and as long as it is top tier for PvP, the Mask of Bakris will remain a viable option. It's high risk, high reward. You're going to get less dodging, but if you want cracked movement. It's very, very fun. And especially, by the way, in the future, if the Stompees ever get nerfed, then the Mask of Bakris may be one of the few movement exotic pieces left standing. So more on that in the future. For PvE, I've talked to a few people about Bakris and PvE, and the viability can kind of be a little bit all over the map depending on who you talk to. I will say that it definitely can be highly viable, maybe arguably top tier in PvE, but it depends on the activity, right? It depends on the time. Doing something like a day one raid completion where a lot of teams are desperate for any kind of extra damage output, Bakris can help you out a lot. Like, I know a lot of people in Deepstone Crypt were using the Risk Runner day one. And I mean, hey, look, you get extra weapon damage when you're using an arc weapon. I believe the extra damage factor is 10%, which doesn't really sound like a lot of damage. But hey, remember, you can, like, it's not very hard to activate a Hunter dodge. You just dodge and then boom, 10% extra damage for really doing nothing. And in a lot of PvE situations, like a day one raid, you'll be very desperate for any type of extra damage output that you can get your grubby little hands on. And if you pair it together with a slowed or frozen enemy, that's another 10%. Well, I think if you have them both together, it could be 11%. I think you can get up to either 20 or 21% extra damage, which is kind of equal to Rampage level 2, really for not doing something that powerful. It's just, oh, Hunter dodge and they're slowed, extra damage. So that can be very helpful in PvE. I think Bakris was much more viable back before Anarchy got nerfed. When Anarchy was at the peak of its power and paired together with Philo, aka the first in, last out arc slug shotgun, and people were doing the slug shotgun swapping back and forth paired together with Anarchy, Bakris was way stronger because you were getting that extra damage output from, you know, the shifting and from the arc weapon damage. Very, very strong. Right now, I wouldn't say it would be the top shelf go-to item, but if in the future, if Witch Queen drops and we have a new cracked arc weapon, something more powerful than Anarchy, or if there's an armor mod on your artifact, you get extra damage for anything arc or something like that, keep your eyeballs peeled, because depending on what we get in the Witch Queen, weapon-wise and armor mod-wise, Bakris could creep up to, tip-top viability in PvE again. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Young Ahamkara's Spine. I'll read you the perk here. Increases trip mine duration and blast radius. Ability damage grants trip mine energy. So the young Ahamkara's Spine in PvP is very viable and has a really high learning curve, which I will explain. It doesn't take much. It's like, what are you talking about? It has a high skill curve. All you got to do is hit one button and you throw a nade on the wall. That's all it does, and it does the work for you. True. But you have to be smart about when you're using a trip mine, and you have to be smart about where you're using a trip mine. Are you using it offensively? Like, are you collapsing on a team and you want to make sure they're not escaping through one particular hallway or doorway? So you put a trip mine there to try and seal them in a little bit more as you collapse, or you could use it defensively, which a lot of people do, where if another team is trying to collapse on you and, you throw a trip mine on the doorway leading to where you or your buddies are or something like that. You can use it either way, but if you watch a truly talented player use the young Ahamkara Spine, you can really be inspired. It's such a sharp difference from watching someone who maybe doesn't play Gunslinger a lot, doesn't use trip mine a lot, trying to take advantage of it, maybe throwing a lot of trip mines that will never see any usage. My good friend True Vanguard, who has put a lot of time and practice into making sure that his trip mine placements are borderline evil. I would say in the hands of True Vanguard, or any other experienced player. Like, the skill ceiling is very, very high. It's the viability is without question strong. I would put it at lowest, I would put it at mid tier, but at the highest, I would put it at very high tier, because again, you can do insane work in PvP. And the fact that the blast radius is improved, you know, there might be some situations where a player tries to kind of run around the edge of a trip mine if it's unavoidable, and because the blast radius is weak, they won't take that much damage from the explosion. But with the buffed blast radius, it's much harder to accomplish that. So yeah, minimum mid-tier in PvP, but depending on who is wearing it, the skill ceiling potential very high. For PvE, the young Ahamkara spine is fun, but probably not as viable as a lot of other options that you could potentially bring into PvE. There was actually a thread on Reddit that I was reading through not too long ago, talking about how if you're a Blade Barrage Hunter main, you know, there's like, 12 of you out there, that you can use the young Ahamkara to do a lot of ability spam in PvE, because, you know, you have the whole knife trick combo. I don't know if I'll link the Reddit post down below, because it was really well written, very informative if you want to try to look into that and take advantage of it. But I haven't tried it personally, but I don't think a lot of people at the top level, you know, end game PvE content are probably going to be rocking the young Ahamkara and Blade Barrage in PvE. It's, you know, fun, but I wouldn't rank it currently super very high. Now we have the Mechaneer's Tricksleeves, which I will read to you. Increases sidearm ready and reload speed. While you're critically wounded, swapping to a sidearm will improve the damage output. So before we get into the viability, let me give you the numbers on the damage output. So for PvE, you get an extra 100% damage output, which is really generous. And for PvP, you get an extra 33%. So the Mechaneer's Tricksleeves will essentially give you kill clip for free if you swap to a sidearm and you're at critically wounded health, which is, I will get into a minute. I will get into it in a minute why that pretty much breaks my heart. For PvP, the Mechaneer's Tricksleeves can absolutely be viable if you are a sidearm main, like a hard sidearm main. Yeah, you can take advantage of the Tricksleeves. But even still, there are big downsides, which, if you heard me sigh, the fact that the extra damage output only comes when you are critically wounded is brutal. It's so unfortunate that I think a lot of people agree that it's just such a siren's call. There's very little time in PvP that you want to intentionally be running around with low health. And maybe if there were a threshold where, you know, you get low health, low-ish health, and then the damage kicks in, and then, you know, it'll be around for a set amount of time. But no, it only kicks in when your health is low. And because most people prioritize high recovery on their Guardian when they play PvP, your damage window is going to be very short, because you're going to be critically wounded. You're probably not going to want to challenge, because if you step out, any damage at all will kill you, right? You know, the enemy shoots you in your big toe and you die because you're critically wounded. And the second you get out of critically wounded status and your health bar starts to replenish, you've lost that extra damage output, which is half of the reason to wear the Tricksleeves, which is such a goddamn bummer. Will it kick in every now and then and help you maybe lock up a kill that you might not have gotten before? Sure, it can absolutely help you do that, but not all the time. If the extra damage window were a little bit different, if it didn't really lean on the fact that you need to be critically wounded in order to help you out, it would make it so much better. Oh gosh, at the very least though, if you're a hard sidearm main, the better ready and reload speed will literally always be there to help you. So you can look at it that way. Like, I use the sidearm and I'm going to get better handling and I'm going to get better reload all the time, no matter what. Yeah, that's fine and dandy. You can take advantage of that. And maybe every now and then, if you're dueling somebody and they're whiffing their kill shot, meaning you're at critical health and all they need to do is sneeze on you to finish you off, and they trip up and miss 1 or 2 shots, that extra 33% damage, yeah, you can put them in the ground. But for the most part, you're not going to get too much extra usage out of that extra damage output because, again, critically wounded. And if you have high recovery, which most people do, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it for too long. For PvE, again, viable, but the same problem that you run into in PvP, which is that you can only take advantage of the extra damage factor when you have pretty much no health. Now, in PvE, it's easier to stay alive if you're at low health, depending on the activity that you're in. There are a lot of, Grandmaster Nightfalls. If you get sniped by a Vandal, he can one-shot you. So, I mean, certain activities, not too easy to stay alive. But for other activities, you can stay alive for a fair amount of time with red health. But again, it's a bummer that you can only take advantage of the extra damage when you're very hurt. You can try to take advantage of things like the armor mod sneak attack, if you're familiar with that. It's under the Charged with Light umbrella, which will give you an extra 35% damage output when you're charged with light and you swap to a sidearm. But because that's technically under the umbrella of an empowering buff, it does not stack with things like Radiant Well. It doesn't stack with Ward of Dawn. If you have the Ward of Dawn active anywhere on the team, that's already 35%. So that's not going to stack with something like the sneak attack armor mod. But still, I mean, it could change in the future if we get a new cracked top tier sidearm for PvE, or if they ever buff the Tricksleeves. If we ever get a TWAB where they talk about buffing the Tricksleeves for Witch Queen, something with an improved damage window or not tied to your health being critically wounded, then I would instantly think about rocking the Tricksleeves for PvE. But until that point in time, I'm not personally going to rank it tremendously high for either PvP or for PvE. All right, now we have the Aeon Swift. Kind of a complicated exotic if you're new, but I will read through each one of these perks. Essentially, depending on what perk you put on the armor in the final column, it will give you a different benefit. So the first option that you have is the Sect of Force. Rapid precision hits with a weapon will temporarily increase reload speed and weapon swap speed. When you stun a champion or defeat a boss or mini-boss, nearby fireteam members will gain a burst of grenade and melee energy. Aeon Cult allies, aka anyone else on your fireteam wearing the Aeon exotic armor who does not have Sect of Force equipped, will get super energy. Then you have the Sect of Insight. Successive precision hits, takedowns. I can read. Successive precision weapon takedowns have a chance to drop an orb of power. When you use a finisher on an elite, you generate special ammo for your fire team. When you use a finisher on a boss or mini boss, you generate heavy ammo for your fire team. Nearby Aeon Cult allies who do not have the Sect of Insight role equipped will gain a bonus to weapon damage for a short time. And then we have the Sect of Vigor. Gain class ability energy as your allies die. Gain full class ability energy when you resurrect an ally. When you cast your super, nearby allies gain an instant burst of healing. Aeon Cult allies who do not have the Sect of Vigor role equipped also will gain an overshield. A lot of description there, I know, sorry about that. But that is how the gauntlets work in a nutshell. For PvP, I don't know literally anybody who seriously will rock the Aeon Swift in PvP. It's just kind of not done. I'm sure that you might be able to get a benefit with maybe Sect of Force, who you get better reload and weapon swap speed, but there are other ways you can achieve that with, armor mods and whatever. You don't need to rely on a PvE exotic in order to pimp out your handling or reload speed, I guess. But yeah, nobody really uses Aeon Swift in PvP. I would rank it probably fairly low. For PvE, however, the Aeon armor on any class, Hunter, Titan, Warlock, don't matter. Top tier, without question, top tier. Very easy for new or learning players to take advantage of. And the fact that you can instantly, with the Sect of Insight, gain heavy ammo for your fire team by just finishing a boss or mini boss. That's so easy to do. Just get a boss or mini boss weak within finishing range. Hey guys, I got this. Go up, bam, pull off a finisher, one tap kill, and then bam, heavy ammo for everybody. And considering right now we're in the meta of particle deconstruction, a lot of people are rocking the 1K, and a lot of people are rocking, I don't know, Vorpal Threaded Needle or the Reed's Regret or what have you. Heavy ammo is in high demand always in PvE, always in high demand. And the ability to instantly generate it, and you know, if your buddies are wearing the Aeon and they don't have Sect of Insight, all of a sudden they get extra weapon damage. It's very, very strong for PvE. If you're looking to do endgame PvE content, especially a Grandmaster Nightfall, and you're never really sure, like, oh, what should I put on? You can't go wrong with the Aeon Swift. Top tier for PvE. Alrighty, Shinobu's Vow improves the skip grenade, and you gain an additional skip grenade charge. Skip grenade returns energy when it damages opponents. So for PvP, Shinobu's Vow is high tier, in my opinion. I know that a lot of people might disagree. They would think, oh, it was only really strong during that one seasonal event. What was it, that Valentine's Day event or whatever it was? I can't remember what it was, when you got your ability energy back super quickly. Can't remember. Blotted out the bad memory. But even outside of that event, Shinobu's Vow, high tier. Especially in game types like Trials. Now, the enemy team can kind of figure out what you're doing. If they figure out that you're taking advantage of Shinobu's Vow, they're going to play cover maybe a little bit more tightly. But even still, you're putting a lot of pressure on the enemy team with very little effort. The fact that you get 2 skip grenade charges for free, they track really aggressively, you're forcing movement. So even though it's relatively easy, air quotes easy, to get away from a skip grenade charge, the fact that you're forcing the enemy player to move, you're going to force them, if they're a hunter, you're forcing them to dodge. If you're, or you know, if they're in a tight situation, if they don't have their dodge, you're forcing them to jump, you're forcing them to run, to move around a corner. You're forcing them to move. And with that, you and a well-organized team can push in together. You can collapse. Even if you get a little bit of chip damage with a skip grenade from Shinobu, let's say you only do 25% of the enemy health bar, that's fine. That's plenty of work. You can go in. Now you've changed your 120 RPM hand cannon to a 2-tap kill. You've changed your 140 RPM hand cannon to a 2-headshot, 1-body shot kill. You can weaken the enemy just enough, almost guaranteed with the Shinobu's Vow, that you're going to make your primary weapon time to kill that much easier. So I would rank it high tier. And yeah, the fact that you get energy back on a hit, it can be really brutal if you're taking advantage of it the right way. And remember that in December, again, the Revenant Hunter is getting nerfed. They're going to nerf Shatter Dive. We don't really know how, to what degree, but if it gets completely obliterated, you're definitely going to see a rise in Shinobu's Vow, because it doesn't take a lot of talent or skill to take advantage of. You just throw a grenade and the grenade is better. And, you know, if you're rocking 100 discipline grenade kickstart, all that usual crap, it's just going to be a very, very strong option. Really obnoxious, especially if you have multiple hunters rocking Shinobu's Vow. God help the other team. They would literally be pulling their hair out. If you ever want to make sure, guaranteed that you get hate mail in any weekend of Trials, go into Trials with a team of triple hunter Shinobu's Vow and watch as magically your inbox blows up. For PvE, I don't think it's something that a lot of people routinely go for or take advantage of. I talked to a good friend of mine named Kujay, and you know, he reminded me that if you're in PvE, you can potentially take advantage of Shinobu paired together with Top Tree Arcstrider, because even though Top Tree Arcstrider is all about the melee ability and dodging, you get your melee and, you know, longer reach, better melee, back to a dodge, rinse and repeat. If you have the Bomber armor mod equipped, every time you dodge, you're getting a chunk of grenade energy. And on Top Tree Arcstrider, you're meleeing and dodging quite a bit. So you can get a fair amount of grenade energy back, and you can take advantage of Shinobu's Vow. But even still, a lot of people in endgame PvE, they're not really leaning heavily into Shinobu's Vow. I think it could be fun for, you know, an activity like Sorrow's Harbor or, you know, Altar of Sorrows, whatever. But, or any activity with an arc burn or something to that degree. But for the most part, in very challenging endgame PvE, you're not going to see a lot of Shinobu's Vow. Okay, sealed Ahamkara grasps. I am really nervous about doing the review for this piece of armor because it is used so rarely to the point where I had to discuss with multiple people about, does anybody wear this armor at all? Is there some kind of hidden secret meta that we are unaware of that maybe, you know, revolves around the Ahamkara grasp? And for the most part, I think I can say no. Now, there used to be a glitch in the game where if you would throw a smoke bomb, you know how the smoke bomb does repeated kind of toxic chip damage, whatever. If you hit somebody with a smoke bomb, that would count as being able to repeatedly proc the exotic perk on the armor, which I'll read. It's very short. Dealing melee damage will reload your currently equipped weapon. So we believe that that was patched. If for whatever reason Bungie goofs up and that becomes unpatched, or if they decide to make it a hardcore feature, then the Ahamkara grasps could become very viable for either PvP or PvE. Right now I have them ranked low for both. So, but if we ever get that ability where you throw a smoke bomb and you're getting multiple damage ticks and you're able to instantly reload something like a grenade or rocket launcher on the multiple smoke bomb ticks, dear God, that would be cracked. Just imagine that you had a rocket launcher, a god roll PvE rocket launcher, and you throw, I don't know, smoke bomb on a raid boss or something like that, and you fire a rocket launcher, but the smoke bomb is ticking, and you're just getting shots being put back in your rocket launcher or grenade launcher. Just really, the potential is high on paper, but only if we have the ability to take advantage of some melee ability, any melee ability, that will allow you to repeatedly proc the reload perk with no effort, like kind of a set it and forget it. If we don't have that ability to take advantage of, I would put the Ahamkara grasp very low for both PvP and PvE. If anybody out there is a hunter main and you know about some kind of secret meta with the Ahamkara grasp, I would love to hear from you. Please DM me. I would love to know, oh no, there's this secret cracked hidden trick that nobody knows about. Raid bosses hate him, you know? And or for PvP, either would be very fun. But for right now, I don't have anything to say about it. I mean, hunters can already dodge reload. Again, it's all hinging on if we ever get the ability to get some kind of melee ability that will repeatedly proc the unique perk. And if we don't have that, then don't bother. Okay, the Shards of Galanor. Hits and kills with Blade Barrage will return super energy after your super ends. So Shards of Galanor fall under that umbrella where Bungie wanted to make sure that any exotic that gives you back a certain amount of super energy for any reason has a cap on it. So Shards of Galanor, the most energy you will ever get back would be around 50% energy max, depending on how many people you kill with the Blade Barrage. For PvP, you know, normally, especially in today's video, you've seen me give kind of a range of viability. Like I'll say, oh, it's, you know, anywhere from medium tier to high tier, depending on blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say for Shards of Galanor PvP, full stop, I'm going to say low tier. It is bad in PvP. I would rank it bottom of the barrel for PvP. Blade Barrage, needs in PvP a lot of help. It is bad. It is a bad super. It used to be good. It used to be kind of the go-to option for defeating a Bubble Titan in PvP, but now a lot of things can kill Bubble Titan in PvP. Bubble is not nearly as strong as it used to be. And I mean, there are so many times that you'll see on Twitter, Reddit, whatever, people firing out a Blade Barrage that you think, oh, that's a guaranteed kill right there. Nope. It's just, people know how to dodge Blade Barrage. The activation time, the windup time is maybe too long, and there's kind of like a delay before the knives blow up. It's just a bad super, and the whole tree is... I'm so not a fan of the Blade Barrage tree with the terrible little triple knife melee, which I don't think is anywhere near as good as the bottom tree gunslinger melee. It's just, it needs help. And when you have something for PvP that is only going to help you regenerate super energy, yeah, it can work. We'll talk about the Raiju's Harness later, which is the much better exotic focused around, your super in PvP. But yeah, Shards of Galanor, PvP, that's going to be a hard no for me right now. For PvE, it can be viable if you're in an activity with, a solar burn, but outside of that, I would still say leaning closer to lower tier. Again, yeah, you can get 50% of your energy back, which terrific, but Blade Barrage ain't that hot right now. I have a friend, Swifty, who I play with every now and then in PvE, and he mentioned to me, it's kind of sad when you can have a hunter repeatedly throwing Blade Barrages at Aeon in the Vaults of Glass raid, and you still get out damaged by a Warlock only throwing fusion grenades over and over. Which is like, yeah, it's true. That's kind of a heartbreaker. But if I'm ever using Galanor, borderline never, maybe it would be in an activity like where you're killing a lot of trash. Or anywhere where you just need to carve through a bunch of weak, low-level enemies really quickly, and there's a solar burn turned on. But outside of that, I would not put it on anywhere near the same level as endgame PvE camo abuse, or extra boss damage, or the ability to generate extra heavy ammo by just finishing a champion or something like that. So, Shards of Galanor, I think they need help. Oh, and now we come to Oathkeeper. Bow charges can be held indefinitely. So I want to tell you a story. Back in before Trials got revamped, or was I playing? I might have been playing Comp to get Unbroken. This might have been a long time ago. We fought the first person ever who really I had ever seen, against me anyway, take advantage of the Oathkeeper. I was not familiar with them very much at all, which is why you can tell it was a long time ago. Most hunters in PvP are using other exotics that you can use right out of the box with very little thought, right? Dragon Shadow, Stompees, you know the deal. But we fought a guy on PC, and his name literally was Robin Hood. And he used Oathkeeper, and he used the Monarch, and it was the most oppressed I had ever felt in a game of PvP. It's just, if you have a cracked bow user that in PvP, if you like using the Monarch, because the thing about the Monarch is that you're really taking advantage of the bow, the extra damage and the tick damage and all that crap, if you're doing a hit on a full powered draw. If you hold the Monarch full draw for too long, you overhold the draw, and you don't get the same benefit from the arrow connecting. But with the Oathkeeper, you can just hold that full charge the entire time. You can challenge a lane for full minute, and you're not going to lose the benefit of getting that full powered Monarch shot. And it was just a very memorable game of PvP for me. I think we were on this huge win streak in Comp, and then we fought this Robin Hood guy, and we didn't have a sniper on our team. Our fault, right? Or maybe we had only one sniper. But it was a nightmare. So against certain teams, any bow main will tell you that the thing they fear a lot is a really cracked sniper, because against a really cracked sniper, all they have to do is just, and then, you know, the bow user's dead. Like, because the sniper bullet will connect before they pull off their bow shot. And then, yeah, so bow mains fear really good sniper mains. But if you're ever in trials and you run up against another team who is foolishly not rocking a sniper or not rocking the driver, or if you can tell that their sniper is maybe timid or weak or not challenging as aggressively as they should be, you can really punish a lot of people very heavily with the Oathkeeper. I think it's very niche. I will say that for sure. It's very niche. But for dedicated bow mains, I would put it at minimum mid-tier, but depending on how good of a player you are, the ceiling potential is quite great. You can troll people very hard in PvP with the Oathkeeper. I don't think it has the same viability across the board that a lot of other exotics do have in PvP. But yeah, it's the ceiling potential is quite high. For PvE, I mean, yeah, you know, we have Overload Bow, right, in PvE right now, which is fantastic for dealing with champions. But even still, I would say for PvE, it would be bottom tier. You don't need the same level of perma full draw bow in PvE. Champions aren't that hard to tag with a bow and arrow, especially if you've hit a champion and they're stunned and they're just kind of standing still. You don't really need to take advantage of Oathkeeper in PvE. I would say very high ceiling potential in PvP and don't care for PvE. Liar's Handshake. Using your arc melee ability or being hit by a melee attack will allow you to follow up with an extremely powerful melee counterpunch that will heal you. So for PvP, it is possible to get a one-hit melee bang with the Liar's Handshake, which is really, really funny. If you are a Arcstaff main and you think you can get me a clip, please tag me on Twitter. I would love to see a Twitter clip of someone absolutely just running train on another team in Iron Banner or Quick Play with the Liar's Handshake. It would pair very well. If you're a top tree Arcstaff main, that would be so funny. I would love to see that clip. For endgame PvP against like top 1% players, I think you're going to have a much more difficult time running a melee train. If you go into trials and they see that you're rocking the Liar's Handshake like for real, they're like, oh, this guy's really actually rocking the handshake in trials. They're probably going to stay away from you. And also remember that shotguns right now are quite good in PvP. We have the ever oppressive Chaperone, which can clown people from very good range in PvP. We got the Fellwinter, we got the Reese Walker, we got a whole bunch of guns that are very strong in the shotgun department for PvP. So you got to be careful about that. Fusion rifles also quite good. We got the main ingredient, we got the Zealot, we got the Adept Plug 1 running around. All very good. So you can take advantage of the Liar's Handshake, and if you do, it is very, very funny. But I would rank it, because it takes a bit of practice and it's very situational, it's going to be much better in sixes than it would be probably in 3v3. It takes practice. Yeah, the ceiling potential is fairly high, but just because it's not super out of the box friendly, I would say it would require a lot of practice to use very well. I would probably put it around mid tier, but again, in the hands of a devastating player, but potentially high tier. For PvE, the Liar's Handshake has a very funny history with Bungie of breaking endgame PvE content. It had to kind of get nerfed pretty hard, because if you dig deep back through the clips of time, you will see people literally 1v1ing raid bosses with the Liar's Handshake. Super funny, like literally just clowning endgame PvE activities with the handshake. You would pair it together with a shotgun that has 1-2 punch. So, you know, you get the full blast of the shotgun pellet spread, you activate 1-2 punch, bam, little punch action with the handshake, and a ton of damage. So it's been nerfed. It doesn't do as well as it used to do back in the day, but it's still quite good. If you pair it together with the Well of Ions armor mod and the Melee Wellmaker armor mod, you could have a potentially devastating melee build for any PvE content. That would be very, very fun. Just be careful in PvE. Make sure that you are careful, because especially in higher PvE content, GM Nightfalls and all that stuff, enemies hit you very, very hard. And you usually don't want to be too close to people in endgame PvE content, because they can ground pound you and you will get mollywopped. But yeah, there's absolutely still potential for the Liar's Handshake in PvE, without question. It's still quite good. Khepri Sting, an armor piece that has a kind of weird, unique design that I'm not really a fan of. I don't know, the whole bug thing on the arm, I'm not feeling it. If I got a bug on my arm, get that trash off me. You know what I'm talking about? But punching someone with full melee energy will instantly cast Smoke Bomb, gain True Sight while in your own Smoke Bomb effect, and your Smoke Bomb will deal increased damage. So for PvP, the ceiling potential with Khepri is ridiculously high. In the hands of a very talented player, you can do incredible things in PvP. I think for the average player, it still will be quite good, but you need a lot of practice to kind of get good with Khepri. I think at the top level, I think. But so there's kind of two real benefits. One of them is that, you know, if you melee somebody, you're going to also hit them with the Smoke Bomb point blank, which will do extra damage. So in one melee punch in PvP, you can just do a buttload of damage right off the bat. If an enemy player is, you know, they've taken any damage at all already, it's like you're just going to hit them with the melee and bam, they're in the ground, because you're just doing that much damage, throwing that Smoke Bomb in their face with the melee. But the extra factor is the True Sight, which if you're a new player, if you don't know what True Sight is, it's essentially an upgraded version of wall hacking. So with the Foetracer exotic helmet, which was one of the earlier pieces that we went over in today's video. When you mark a target, when they go behind a wall, there's kind of like an X crosshair that shows you the general area of where they are. Oh, they're moving behind a pillar. Here's that little X on your HUD. But with True Sight, you literally see the full outline of the player, their whole body. So what people do in trials is depending on the map, they'll instantly, right off the bat, if they have a Smoke Bomb, they will throw it at themselves, at the wall, at the floor, and they will gain True Sight immediately. And with that information, you can instantly tell your team, okay, the enemy team is pushing this lane. They're pushing that lane. There's two this direction, one this direction. One player back on spawn, one player is doing this. Or, you know, mid or end game. Is the territory about to appear? Bam. Khepri Sting. Okay, one player is about to camp territory, two people over by power, blah, blah, blah. The ability to instantly gain wall hack information every time you have a Smoke Bomb, very, very powerful. Normally, any Khepri Sting main is going to go heavy melee ability. You know, you're going to up your armor for strength to make sure that they can take advantage of that wall hack vision literally anytime that they want to. I would put it, you know, mainly used in trials or comp, because I think for quick play or Iron Banner, it's probably usually too hectic. You know, you walk like 5 feet and you stumble across a couple of people duking it out no matter what. The information isn't as crucial or critical in quick play or Iron Banner that it is in endgame PvP. So super important, relative learning curve, depending on, you know, the activity that you're playing. But I think the potential, the ceiling potential in endgame PvP, very high with the Khepri for sure. For PvE, I would not say that Khepri is built for PvE at all. I can't imagine a world where you would need a lot of true sight information. The only thing I can think of is like, oh, there's a champion hiding from me. Where did he go? But even then, like, how hard is it to find a champion? They're relatively stupid. And yeah, you know, you get the extra damage from the smoke bomb. I guess. Yeah, who cares? It's not built for PvE, in my opinion. It's 100% built for endgame PvP. Okay, now we come to Athrys's Embrace, or as my friend calls it, the Arthur's Embrace. And so here's the description. Weighted Knife, aka on the bottom tree Gunslinger, gets a second bounce. So if you hit a wall, rather than just, you know, bing, bing, you get a double bounce there. Rapid headshots with your weapon will give Weighted Knife a significant damage bonus for a short time, and the ability to stun unshielded combatants. Empowered, Weighted Knife is strong against unstoppable champions. So for PvP, Arthur's Embrace is quite good in the hands of an expert. The damage buff, or the damage bonus that they're talking about in PvP, is actually 100%, which is quite good. That's way beyond Rampage or Kill Clip or anything like that. 100% damage buff is huge. And in order to activate it, you know, you need the little couple headshots. You need like 3 hits within 3 seconds or something like that. And if you have a pulse rifle, I mean, that's no problem at all. Is you just get one shot in the head and then bam. And when I say in 3 seconds, I mean, you just need to hit the headshots within that window of time. When you have the damage buff activated, I think that can last from a minimum of 10 seconds to a maximum of half a minute, which is quite good. So if you're in PvP, if you have a pulse rifle or the Crimson or a sidearm or whatever, or an auto rifle, SMG, get a couple headshots, bam, you've activated Arthur. And I have a really good friend from our Twitch community, and he's just a really great guy named Jingleheimer. And I'll hopefully play a couple of clips from his Twitter. He loves the Arthur, and he has a ton of clips where he will get the silliest, dumbest one-hit kill throwing knives that you've ever seen in your life. Because when you get that double wall bang, the aim assist kind of kicks in. The knife almost turns into a body-seeking, like a heat-seeking knife. Like when you throw it intentionally to get the double wall bang, you're activating that crazy tracking. It almost feels like when you throw a Sentinel Titan shield, how it kind of like, when it hits the wall, it turns into Captain America's shield and it like literally goes directly towards a person. Same thing with the Arthur. So you get that headshot damage. You've activated the bonus 100% knife damage for potentially up to half a minute. You look for a specific angle, and then you get that double wall bang, and boom, one hit kill Knife City. Again, I cannot stress, my friend Jingle has done some of the dumbest knife kills I've ever seen in my life, but it's very powerful. I would put it, it's, again, there's going to be a range. I think for newer players, who it's not recommended for newer players. It is definitely more recommended for experienced bottom tree gunslinger mains. If you're very experienced, if you know how the knife works, if you know how PvP works, yeah, throw it on, give it a try. It would be, the ceiling potential is very, very good. So remember that one weekend when we had objective trials on Wormhaven? Yeah, a map and a game type like that, huge, because you always get into these standoff situations where you're up top and one team is hiding behind the glass or whatever. But if you have Arthur activated, get a little damage, and you get that you know, double wall bang, you can essentially tag or even murder people from behind the corner with pretty much no effort. So it does require a fair amount of practice to get well or to get good with, but the ceiling potential is there, and the ceiling potential is quite high. I don't know if I would put it at the same level as the top tier movement hunter exotics right now, because those are quite good, but I would absolutely put Arthur at high tier. For PvE, the damage buff goes from 100 to 200%, which is quite good. And the fact that you can get the ability to stop unstoppable champions is actually quite good, because maybe you're running a weapon loadout and you don't want to feel restricted, right? A lot of people hate that feeling of needing to be restricted. I don't want to run an Unstoppable, whatever. Right now, it's not that big of a deal because Unstoppable is fusion and linear fusion rifles, and in Season of the Lost in D2, fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles are absurdly good because you can pair them together with particle deconstruction and instantly melt almost any boss down to the ground. But, you know, in future seasons, I'm sure we won't get particle deconstruction. I'm sure we won't get, you know, cracked fusion rifle Unstoppable with PD together. So future seasons, the viability will go up. But Arthur has a lot of competition from the Aeon cult, which is also a gauntlet and can generate free power ammo for the entire team. I would still rank it as viable, a 200% damage knife, nothing to sneeze at, especially in a solar burn activity. And the fact that you can, you know, stop champions with it too gives you a little bit more freedom in your weapon loadout. So pretty good for PvE. I wouldn't rank it high tier, but absolutely viable and potentially even more viable in the future. Moving on, we got the Raiden Flux. Quick successive attacks with your Arc Staff super will improve the damage output and the duration of your Arc Staff. So for PvP, I'm just going to say no. Again, there's always the chance that something could come back and bite me in the butt. But for PvP, nobody that I know, no serious hunter main is going to rock the Raiden Flux in endgame PvP. Nobody. Even though it can make your roaming super stronger, you know, Arc Staff mains are usually pretty good in making sure that they're using their Arc Staff to its fullmost potential. You have the combo of light, light, heavy, which is the palm strike combo. So light strike, and then you hit heavy, and then bam, you get the palm blast, which that on its own can pretty much nuke any other roaming super that you might be battling with. And I mean, even still, I think with Arc Staff, it's just 2 hits on another roaming super, 2 light swings, I think, or maybe light heavy will probably win that 1v1 anyway, even without the Raiden Flux. It's just, if you're rocking Raiden Flux in PvP, I would think that you would be wasting your exotic. Now, you could do a situation where you're playing the whole game with Dragon Shadow or something else, and then, you know, you get your Arc Staff super, and if you're really paranoid that you're going to lose a 1v1 duel against another roaming super for whatever reason, then sure, you could put on the Raiden Flux. I mean, it wouldn't really hurt you because you'd put it on, you're not locked into your armor pick, super over, take it off, right? But even then, I probably wouldn't waste my time. I would rather just move quickly rather than fiddling around in my menu for something like that. Yeah, I mean, you get the extra duration, which is quite good. So maybe I should take it back just a little bit. Maybe the extra, but the Arc Staff did get a buff where the duration is better. I guess if you want to play endgame trials and you want to put the Raiden Flux on for a longer duration Arc Staff, sure, I'm sure you could get a little bit of extra viability out of that if you're really paranoid that your Arc Staff won't perform as well as you want it to. But I would qualify that probably as a really niche usage in PvP, only putting it on for the sake of extending the duration of your roaming super. I think for the most part, for the majority of a PvP match, you're not going to get a whole lot of viability out of the Raiden Flux. But it does have that one specific usage, fine, I'll say that it does have that one specific usage. The put it on endgame PvP when your super's charged. If you really care, you get the extra damage and duration. There you go. For PvE, the Raiden Flux, if by the way, I should absolutely be going over the extra damage numbers. I think it's I'm getting these numbers from my friend Courtroom, who has that really wild spreadsheet that I reference all the time. So the first extra damage number is 13.5%. The second hit of extra damage, 28.8%. And then the third hit, 46% damage, something like that. So the ceiling of what Raiden will offer you is an extra 46% damage output. Not the whole time. After multiple hits, you know, after multiple hits, you go from 13 to 28 to 46 extra damage output. So that could be viable, right? If you're in a PvE activity with an arc burn, If you're playing Gambit and you're an Arc Staff main in Gambit, what a weird thing to say out loud. Maybe you could put on Raiden to clown the Primeval, maybe a little bit harder, provided it is not a meatball. But yeah, you got to be careful in endgame PvE activities because enemies hit you really hard, especially up close for melee damage, for ground pound damage. They're going to kick you right in the crotch and do a lot of damage. You got to be very, very careful. But it is viable for sure. Extra damage output and a longer super in PvE against a boss, a mini boss, whatever. Sure, yeah, that'll work. I don't think it'll be the play for certain, GM Nightfalls or even for a day one raid. I would probably rather bring something else, but it is viable in PvE for sure. Lucky Raspberry increases the chaining capabilities of the Arc Bolt grenade and has a chance to recharge it each time that it deals damage. A full chain of people getting tagged back and forth will always recharge the grenade ability. So for PvP, the Lucky Raspberry is definitely viable. I would put it in mid-tier, probably normally, but if you're in Control, if you're in Iron Banner, then maybe a little bit higher tier, because the more people you have on the field, the more tags you are likely to get, especially in a game type like Iron Banner. People are thirsty for capturing zones for a bounty or to get the game over more quickly. So in sixes, definitely potentially high tier. Definitely potentially high tier. I kind of compare the Lucky Raspberry to the Shinobu's Vow a little bit more. There's a kind of a give and take. I think if you're trying to abuse grenades in endgame PvP, like Trials or Comp or whatever, then Shinobu would be the play to abuse grenades, because Shinobu shines brighter in a 1v1 environment. So if you're 1v1ing somebody, you're both trying to take advantage of cover, all that stuff. You just throw a lazy skip nade out with the Shinobu and bam, tracking the guy hardcore. Now they need to dodge, they need to run, they need to jump. You're forcing movement very easily, and you get 2 charges for free with the Shinobu. And when you deal damage in any form, you're guaranteed getting grenade chunk energy back. Whereas with the Lucky Raspberry, you're only going to get a guaranteed full charge if you get the maximum chain length, and you have a chance of getting it to recharge every time you deal damage, which is good, but not to me as it's not quite as good to me as the guaranteed grenade energy recharge offered by Shinobu, where if you deal any type of damage at all, okay, you're going to get a little bit of nade energy back, which is big. But again, the Lucky Raspberry, even though I don't see a lot of people wearing it these days in Iron Banner or Control, can do very well paired together with a grenade kickstart mod, 100 discipline if you really want to take advantage of trying to chain a bunch of people together in Control. Absolutely can definitely be viable. So with PvE, sure, you can have some fun clearing trash level enemies. Any activity where you want to carve through a bunch of low level ads. Altar of Sorrow, I bring that up a lot. Maybe even Gambit. You could probably get a fair amount of viability out of the Lucky Raspberry. I wouldn't really bring it into something like a GM Nightfall. Maybe I would bring it into a dungeon, depending on how many enemies we're fighting in that dungeon. Maybe a day one raid. Again, it depends on the activity. It depends on how many trash enemies you're going to get swarmed by. If you're going to get swarmed by a lot of low-level enemies, sure, bring the Raspberry. You get a full-length chain. You get that instant recharge. Could be very, very good. I would say it would be situational, but definitely viable for certain activities in PvE. Dragon Shadow. So if the Stompees ever get nerfed into Oblivion in PvP, you are looking at what many Hunter mains will very likely fall back onto without question. Dragon Shadow is very good. So we're going to read the description. Dodging will reload all your weapons and increase both movement and weapon handling speeds for a brief time. Doesn't sound incredibly flashy. If you're a newer player, you might be thinking that doesn't sound as cool as a double bang wall heavy knife into a one-shot auto-tracking knife, right? But yeah, the viability of the Dragon Shadow is so good. The having all your weapons be reloaded immediately, and then the movement speed and the weapon handling buff, huge. Handling on your weapon is something you can never really get enough of in PvP. If you're a shotgun main, if If you're a sniper main, it doesn't really matter, because if you're a shotgun main, there are situations where someone is charging you and you're shooting your weapon. You weaken them with a primary weapon, hot swap to a shotgun when they're in kill range, and then bam, you swap to your shotgun in the blink of an eye. Bam, fire, and then they're dead. Sniper, you want that handling, because you're trying to hit somebody at range, somebody gets up in your grill, bam, insta swap to whatever your backup weapon is, and you're in a 1v1 duel. So weapon handling, very important. Movement speed, clearly very important. And the Dragon Shadow will allow you as a hunter to use the Gambler's Dodge, which to me is the far better PvP dodge. Not for the utility. For the utility factor, I like the Marksman's Dodge, because depending on what class I'm playing, being able to dodge and immediately reload your equipped weapon is very good. But the problem with the Marksman Dodge is that when you dodge, as the hunter with Marksman, you don't get low to the ground. You kind of do a standing twirl like a ballerina. Whereas with the Gambler Dodge, you go deep. You do like a barrel roll hard to the floor, and it is much harder. The animation of the dodge with the Gambler's Dodge, much harder to hit a hunter with that Gambler Dodge. And because the Dragon Shadow, every time you dodge, you are reloading all your equipped weapons. There is no need to ever equip the Marksman's Dodge on your hunter. You just do the Gambler Dodge, because you'll potentially get your melee back if an enemy is close enough to you, and you have the much better, harder to hit dodge animation right there. So again, the ceiling potential on Dragon Shadow is stupid high. If you watch any really cracked PvP main play endgame PvP, if they're rocking the Dragon Shadow, you're going to see a lot of dodging. You're going to see a lot of quick movement. You're going to see a lot of insanely high weapon handling. It's just really, really good. And if you combine it with a utility kickstart armor mod, then essentially by the time your Dragon Shadow buff is over, you have the ability to dodge again. So you could essentially, if you wanted to, spend the entire PvP match just repeatedly dodging and just getting the movement speed buff, the weapon handling buff, just the whole time. It's like you won't be able to dodge forever, but again, by the time your dodge is recharged, Dragon Shadow buff just ending. So if you want to take advantage of it again, yeah, dodge, take advantage of it again. High tier, top tier for PvP, top tier without question. Even new players who might not fully understand the ins and outs of the piece, they could try it and put it on. There's not much to it. Hunters are going to dodge. Tide goes in, tide goes out. Hunters will dodge. So it's very easy to take advantage of the perk, and the ceiling potential is stupid high in PvP. For PvE, the Dragon Shadow is surprisingly viable. I know that most people view it as a PvP piece of armor, but there's nothing bad about auto-reloading literally all your weapons in PvE at the same time. There's nothing wrong with that at all. In PvE, people are constantly trying to get around the reload mechanic. So like if you're trying to do an Aeon one phase, right? You're trying to deal as much damage as you can, and you're trying to make sure that you have to reload as little as possible, because every time you're reloading, you're wasting time. So with the hunter, with Dragon Shadow, one dodge, bam, all your weapons, stowed or held, are being reloaded, which is actually quite clutch. So I guess if maybe you're in a situation where you're trying to pump out a lot of burst damage in a short window of time, you want to avoid reloading, just keep in mind that the Dragon Shadow is there. Moving on, we have the Ophidia Spathe, or as I call it, the Ophidia Spathe. Grants 2 knives per charge. That's it. That's the whole description. 2 knives per charge. Yeah, there you go. Not armor that I am particularly fond of. If you're out there, if you're an Ophidia main, I'm sure there's all 4 of you. I've probably offended somebody, but we'll start with PvP. So you would have to be really, really in love with the Hunter Throwing Knife to prioritize the Ophidia in PvP. I'm sure if you're a trained knife master and you just constantly are goosing people, then yeah, maybe, sure. But even with the bottom tree gunslinger, if you're that good with a throwing knife, if you hit an enemy in the head, you're going to auto recharge your knife anyway, meaning that you potentially wouldn't need Ophidia if you were relatively accurate with the bottom tree gunslinger knife. Now, you could have Ophidia on just as kind of a precaution, because even the best PvP knife throwers will occasionally miss, for sure. Does happen. But yeah, again, you would have to really love the knife in order to prioritize the Ophidia. I would think that if you want to get a lot of wacky viability out of the bottom knife, you would go with Arthur's Embrace, or you could even do the Gambler's Dodge paired together with the Sixth Coyote, because that way, if you throw a knife and you miss, then you can just dodge, and then bam, you get another knife back instantly if the enemy is relatively near to you, which I'm sure they are if you're trying to get a knife kill. I think that, oh gosh, and if you're a mid-tree, I've already kind of shared my feelings on Blade Barrage in both PvP and PvE. I'm sure you could use the Ophidia to take more advantage of the mid-tree burning, the whole knife trick thing where you're trying to get enemies to burn, and the more you get them to burn, the whole middle tree Blade Barrage thing is like you're trying to get people to burn a lot to get your dodge energy back, all that stuff. But even still, I wouldn't really use the Ophidia for PvP at all. And I mean, if you're a top tree gunslinger, yeah, you could potentially get 2 proximity knives, maybe. But I would think that if you want to play a dangerous proximity mine troll build, then I would probably go for the young Ahamkara spine to beef up the power of my trip mine nade, rather than having a better or more explosive knife action. It's not something that I'm really fond of. I'm sure there are people out there who are fond of the Ophidia. I think that it's not newer player friendly. I think that the ceiling potential is much higher on other pieces of exotic armor in PvP. Can you make it work? Sure. Absolutely. Would I recommend it to people who aren't total diehards of the bottom tree gunslinger? Yeah, probably not. And even if you are a bottom tree gunslinger, I would probably personally go with Arthur or something of that nature, or even Sixth Coyote. For PvE, again, not something I'm too wild about. I'm sure there are people out there, like I've mentioned, taking advantage of the playing with fire, knife trick, middle tree, blade barrage combo. But I think a lot of hunter mains would maybe agree with me that Ophidia isn't ranked high for PvE or PvP most of the time. I'm sure there are situations where it can absolutely shine. Solar burn activity. You're just trying to burn the whole room on middle tree blade barrage in a solar burn activity where you get your abilities back relatively quick. I'm sure you can get viability out of it. Is it going to be the pick for the most for most of your hunter career in PvP or PvE? I would say no. Okay, we have the Sixth Coyote, and it is a very straightforward piece of exotic armor for the hunter. All it will do is give you a second dodge charge. Not as complicated as the Aeon or the Arthur or anything like that. Incredibly straightforward. And in PvP, I am putting Sixth Coyote at a minimum of high tier, depending on the player. It is so good right out of the box. Now, let's be fair. Even though the Coyote is good, it does face strong competition. You got the Dragon Shadow for PvP. You got the Stompees. You got a bunch of really great crap. But the Hunter Dodge, in my opinion, is the best ability in the game for PvP. Yeah, you can do great things with the Warlock Rift. Yeah, the Warlock, Heal Rift, Empowering Rift. You can troll people with a one-shot gun from the Empowering Rift. You can heal your teammates immediately. You can take advantage of incoming DR with the Stag. You can do all that crap. The Titan Barricade is very good. Very, very good in endgame PvP. The Sight and Rampart Titan Barricade is incredible for trials. Super good. But at its base level, The Hunter dodge is just very, very, very good. Like I mentioned earlier, get out of jail free card. If you challenge a lane too hard or if your positioning is bad, then you can immediately correct that mistake by dodging around the corner. And the fact that the Hunter dodge recharges so quickly. If the Hunter dodge had the same recharge time as the Warlock Rift or the Titan Barricade, it would still be very good, but it would go down in viability for sure. But the fact that you can get it back so quickly is so strong. On console, let's talk about the viability of PvP Sixth Coyote on console. It's even stronger there because what happens when you Hunter dodge, you completely break aim assist. So if you're a new player, if you don't really know what that means, you'll notice that if you're fighting a Hunter in PvP and they dodge, you will notice that during that dodge animation, if you're playing controller especially, it will be very difficult to land a shot on that Hunter because they've completely broken all forms of aim assist. Controller has two forms of aim assist. It has reticle friction and bullet magnetism. And M&K only has bullet magnetism. So people who tell you that there is no aim assist on M&K, that is not true. It has bullet magnetism. It just doesn't have reticle friction. So when you're dodging on PC against an M&K player, they will not have a tremendously difficult time landing a shot on you. They're not going to get that bullet magnetism, but they will be able to target you relatively quickly. But if you're playing on console, yeah, you should give the Coyote a try because your ability to break all forms of aim assist in PvP is quite powerful. And the fact that you get 2 dodge charges is kind of unreal. The ceiling potential on the Coyote is quite high, meaning that if you put this armor on a top tier PvP player, they're going to take big advantage of the Coyote. They're going to try to break people's ankles and they're going to make a lot of bold plays because they have twice the get out of jail free card that they would normally have. It's just a very simple piece of armor, but it's so effective. Hunter dodge is so good. Yeah, I would rank it at minimum high tier, but in the hands of an expert, it could be top tier. And you can pair it together with Dynamo, the armor mod Dynamo, and Distribution, which, you know, they're going to get you your roaming super quicker or, you know, any type of super quicker. So in PvP, the fact that you can dodge a lot, you can take twice as much advantage of both Dynamo and Distribution, which is kind of really, really brutal. They're already top tier armor mods in PvP, and with the Coyote, you can just take advantage of them even harder. So for PvE, again, minimum of high tier, but probably top tier. If you're a solo PvE player, like if you're the type of guy who wants to do like, oh, I'm going to do a solo GM challenge. Yeah, God tier for you. You already know because you're taking advantage of camo abuse in a GM Nightfall in a dungeon, or if you're the last member of a raid party and you're trying to get revives without getting clapped by the enemy, you're going to take advantage of camo. And the Hunter dodge to get that camo back quickly pairs so beautifully with the Coyote. All you need if you're rocking, you know, bottom tree tether, you get the Gambler's dodge, camo up with your smoke bomb, dodge one time, and then you get that melee back immediately, and you still have another dodge if you need it. You can keep that camo string going so much easier with the Sixth Coyote. Top tier armor for PvE for anyone who wants to take advantage of camo abuse, or even if you're doing DPS against the boss and you want to just very easily reload one equipped weapon over and over. I mean, you could just do Marksman's dodge, reload one time, boom, equipped weapon, auto reloaded, damage. Now you're trying to reload again. Second dodge, boom, dodge again, damage, no reload. It's just a fantastic piece of armor. I rank it very highly for both PvP and PvE. Moving on, we have the Gwisin Vest. Each Spectral Blade kill you make before going into stealth mode will restore more of your super energy. So way back in the day, before stasis was ever a thing, we call those the glory days, The Gwisin Vest was filthy in PvP in trials. A lot of people were rocking this chest piece in endgame trials. It was very, very good. Now you kind of don't see it as much anymore because Revenant is currently sitting high atop the throne of trials and comp endgame PvP. Super good. But again, we know that Shadow Dive will be nerfed in December in some form or another. And we do know that Void 2.0 classes are coming as well. So with all that paired together, the Gwisin could actually be coming back into the fold a little bit. If you are a Spec Blade main in PvP, I've been playing more and more Spec Blade lately, trying to, you know, not lean into Revenant as hard because we know that they're going to get clowned. But if you're a Spec Blade main, then we know that you could take advantage of Gwisin Vest because there's currently no armor locking, meaning that you could do the whole game with Dragon Shadow or, you know, whatever. And then when you finally have your supercharged in a game of trials, you could open your menu and you could just slap on the Gwisin Vest and you could just pretty much tear through the entire team. Spec Blade is a very, very good roaming super. It's strong, it's quick, your camo, and you get wall hack vision, the true sight vision, not where you see the little X's on your HUD like the Foetracer. It's the thing where you see their full body outline behind a wall. So getting a longer duration of your Gwisin, of your super by taking advantage of Gwisin can be very good. And then when you're done with your super, you can just open up your menu and you can put Dragon Shadow or whatever back on. The only real thing that the Gwisin faces competition from in a PvP environment would be the Wormhusk Crown, which, as we mentioned earlier in the video, when you're in your roaming super with Spec Blade, you can dodge to get instant health regeneration via the Wormhusk Crown, which is quite good. Can't do that with Arc Staff because you can spam the dodge ability, but with the Spec Blade, you can't spam the dodge ability, meaning that you can get health back, which is crazy good. So even though it's very niche, I would rank Gwisin as viable, very viable, only if you are a Spec Blade main. If you're not a Spec Blade main, then you don't care, and you know you can put on the armor at any time. Just know that it has direct competition with the Wormhusk because that extra survivability factor with Wormhusk in your Spec Blade, whew, super good. For PvE, I wouldn't really rank Gwisin very high at all. Extending the duration of your super sure is great if you're trying to carve through a bunch of low-level trash enemies or whatever, but I don't think a lot of people are rocking mid-tree Void Hunter in endgame PvE activities. I think most people are leaning hard into top or bottom tree Void to take advantage of camo abuse in the endgame and Tether, which is such a free PvE super for you and your team. It kind of heavily, in my opinion, outshines the Spec Blade in a PvE environment. So I wouldn't really rank it very high in PvE at all. And for PvP, I do think it's high, but only if you are a Spec Blade main. Okay, the Raiju's Harness. I mentioned earlier in the video, can't remember where, but we mentioned that we would be covering the Raiju, which I hinted at was being quite good. And why don't we read out the description here. If you hit a button, then you can deactivate your Whirlwind Guard early. And guarding, if you're on the middle tree and you do that twirl the stick move to guard and deflect incoming projectiles, guarding does not consume extra super energy. So normally if you're on mid tree and you do the twirl reflect projectile move, you're going to take up significantly more super energy, but with Raiju, you don't. So Raiju is very good in PvP if you are an Arc Staff main. So gosh, it's kind of the Hunter version of the pre-nerf Geomag boots for the Warlock, right? So kind of what you can do is there's really two things you can do. So, and they both are intertwined with shutting down your Whirlwind Guard early. So you can pop your super and try and go for a team wipe. And if you only get 1 or 2 people and the other 1 or 2 enemies run away in endgame PvP, you can intentionally shut off your super early and not waste all that meter on nothing. You can stop it, meaning that your next super will be coming back much sooner than if you had let the bar completely deplete. And then now if you're rocking the proper armor loadout, which is the super good combination of the Powerful Friends armor mod and the Radiant Light armor mod and the High Energy Fire armor mod, then you and your team will now potentially have High Energy Fire from you initially popping your super, and you can go chase down those 1 or 2 enemies with High Energy Fire, which gives you a big weapon buff damage until you get a kill, which is very good. Or you can do the second thing, which is really interesting, which you pop your super and immediately cancel it. I'm talking immediately cancel your super. So pop your super, immediately cancel. Why would you do that? Well, again, Powerful Friends, Radiant Light, and High Energy Fire is a hell of a combo. And if you and your teammates have that in trials, pop your super, deactivate. Now your entire team has ×2 High Energy Fire, which is a weapon damage buff that does not go away until you get a kill. So it's not like Kill Clip where there's a limited time duration that you have to get a kill in that window of time. No, if you have High Energy Fire, you have that weapon damage buff until you get a kill. So in theory, you pop your super, immediately cancel. Everybody on the team has High Energy Fire until they get a kill. And because you canceled your super so early, you're going to be really close to getting your follow-up super, meaning that it's not going to be too long before you can do the same combo again. You just get your super. I'm not even going to use it. Pop it, get High Energy Fire, cancel super. Brutally effective. Brutal, brutal, brutal. And of course, if you're trying to play defensively against a Revenant Hunter, you can twirl back the Silence and Squall. You can win a lot of 1v1s against other supers by deflecting the projectile with the twirl. And again, you don't take up extra super energy. It is so strong. I would rank it, if you're an Arcstaff main in PvP, Raiju is top tier. It is like, there's pretty much no reason to not put it on if you get to super round, right? Like, so same thing as the Gwisin, same thing maybe as the Raiden Flux. If you're looking for a piece of armor to put on to take better advantage of the your Arcstaff, I wouldn't go Raiden Flux. I would 100% go Raiju. It's just so much better. For PvE, I don't really know anybody who uses Raiju in PvE. I mean, I don't even know if I could give it a rank, but gun to my head, which I got to give it a rank somehow. I'm sure it probably has use, right? I would put it at low, but unless there's some secret PvE Raiju meta that I'm not completely aware of. But for the most part, it is 100% designed for PvP. Do the whole game with whatever other armor you got. Get your Arcstaff. Break out that Raiju. Literally never a bad decision. Omnioculus. So you gain a second smoke bomb charge and have DR when you are invisible. When you make an ally invisible, they gain DR while invisible, and you gain more melee energy. So in PvP, the Omnioculus is very viable, but the reason you don't see a lot of people rocking it, at least I don't anyway, is because it usually takes a fair amount of team coordination to use properly in order to take advantage of. If you try to use camo shenanigans against a good team in trials or comp, whatever, eventually they're gonna pretty quickly figure out, oh, they're abusing camo, so they're gonna be on their toes. But even still, fiddling with the enemy team's radar is a very powerful tool. And I mean, the fact that you can get the extra damage resist, which I think is a 24% DR factor, which is not bad, because even if the enemy knows that you're coming while you're camo, and even if they can see you, the fact that you are tougher to shoot, because you get that 24% DR factor, that's pretty good. It's very nice knowing that even if they do see you coming, hey, I'm just beefier, bro. I'm just built different. So I think on a well-organized team. It's, again, not really tremendously user-friendly. A lot of people are using it for fun plays where you try to throw a smoke bomb and bam, whole team camo now, right? And you get the DR for everybody. So that can be very fun. Requires a fair amount of coordination if you want to use it well at the top level. If you want to use it just on you, okay, sure. But yeah, the potential is quite high. I wouldn't put it as high as the top tier movement exotics, which we still haven't completely gotten to yet. But I would say minimum high tier for PvP. For PvE, quite good. I've mentioned already many times that camo abuse in endgame PvE content is clutch, huge. Many people leaning onto that very, very hard. And it's kind of just a take your pick. You know, you want the Sixth Coyote, you want the Graviton, or you want the Omnioculus. It's going to be your personal preference. I think that the Sixth Coyote and the Omni are both the top tier options for camo abuse in PvE. The benefit of Sixth Coyote being that you get longer camo strings for you, and the Omni benefit being that you can get longer camo streaks and DR for both you and other people on your team. So I would rank it top tier for PvE without question. Lucky Pants, kind of a long-winded description here. When you ready a fully loaded hand cannon that deals kinetic damage or a damage type that matches your subclass energy type, each hit from that hand cannon increases the damage of the next shot for a short time against a combatant. Hand cannons ready faster and are more accurate immediately after swapping to them. So let's start with PvP. The second part of that very lengthy description is usually what most people are rocking Lucky Pants for in PvP. So the fact that they ready faster and they are more accurate immediately after swapping to them, right? So that is pretty good. As long as hand cannons are viable in PvP, and at this point in Destiny's lifespan, hand cannons would have to get nerfed very badly to not become meta. Some, pulse rifles, auto rifles, SMGs, they come and go, but hand cannons, for the most part, have always been quite strong in PvP. So the ready speed is great, and the accuracy is great too. There's going to be no world where having a more accurate hand cannon shot is going to be a bad thing in PvP. If you are rocking an exotic hand cannon, the Lucky Pants are kind of a backdoor, tricky way of being able to get maybe, Icarus grip on an exotic hand cannon, right? Because if you're rocking Ace or Thorn or whatever, you don't have the ability to equip an Icarus grip weapon mod into an exotic hand cannon like you would a legendary hand cannon. But with the Lucky Pants, you have that accuracy buff. So you're jumping in the air, the Lucky Pants kick in, and that buff to accuracy can help offset the penalty of bad in-air weapon accuracy. So if you're a exotic hand cannon main in PvP and you're looking to maybe take advantage of better aerial accuracy, the Lucky Pants are totally there to help you. For PvE, I did make a video on the Lucky Pants when they got their relatively new PvE buff. It's very fun for good burst damage on one target. A lot of champions in the game can immediately get liquefied with only just a regular hand cannon, nothing special. It gives an extra 600% damage output, except the Ariana's Vow, which is only 240% damage. But I think the one reason right now that people aren't leaning heavily into the Lucky Pants in PvE as much as they could be is because we have particle deconstruction right now. Particle deconstruction and a Vorpal fusion rifle like the Cartesian Coordinate is just stupid good, right? It's so easy to take advantage of. Everybody in the fire team is probably rocking particle deconstruction, Vorpal, Cartesian, or the 1K, or the Vex Mytho, or something like that. It's just so good and so easy to take advantage of. When that goes away, or if we get an even better hand cannon in future seasons of content, the Lucky Pants could go from being already great, which they are, to incredible. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Orpheus Rig. Provides ability energy for each enemy tethered by deadfall anchors, aka your tether. Mobius Quiver has more shots. So Orpheus Rig for PvP, that's going to be a no from me, dog. The tether is one of the worst supers in PvP. It has a big activation delay, which is terrible. And people have been complaining for a long time that tether in PvP is bad. So we know we have the Void 2.0 update in the future in 2022. Whatever that's going to bring, maybe tether would become a shockingly viable option in PvP. But for right now, tether is bad, in my opinion, and you should avoid both it. If you can, well, you would play a tether class in PvP for the neutral game, right? For the camo abuse, for the whatever. You're not doing it for the tether. But yeah, don't wear the Orpheus Rig right now in PvP. For PvE, high tier when combined, especially with the Power Preservation Armor mod, which is you make many more orbs. And the fact that Orpheus Rig can help you get your ability energy back, which is terrific. I think you're capped again at 50% energy, but still 50% energy to your next super. And tether is pretty good. It's way, in my opinion, better than Blade Barrage or something like that with the Shards of Galanor. You get the tether on the field, you activate a debuff, you're rocking the Power Preservation Armor mod, which if you haven't checked it out, do check it out. It is very good. You're going to make a buttload of orbs for your team. You're going to get energy for your next tether. Everybody's debuffed. They take more damage. It will combo with a lot of weapons very well. It's just overall a high tier piece, borderline maybe top tier piece of armor for PvE. There's no learning curve to it. There's nothing tricky about it. You don't have to learn any fancy trick or nothing like that. It is just incredibly good for PvE. Okay, all right. Finally, we get to the piece of armor that I'm sure a lot of people were waiting to hear me talk about. That would be the Stompees. So the exotic perk is that you have increased sprint speed and slide range, and you improve all your jumping abilities. So the high jump, the strafe jump, and the triple jump, you're going to jump higher, you're going to jump farther. So for PvP, unless you are a completely new player, or if you've been living under a rock, Stompees are, without question, top tier, god tier, S tier, whatever you want to call it, in PvP. They are unbelievably good to the point where you could pretty much throw them on in any PvP activity and you... I mean, not that you wouldn't have to worry. You'd still have to play well and land your shots and all that crap. But, like, it's just set it and forget it. There's no trick to using them well. There's a little bit of a learning curve if you want to learn about bouncing under arches or low ceilings to kind of bang your head when you jump to get more of a momentum boost or something like that. That's kind of really the only real learning curve with the Stompees. But it's so good. It's just... it's the extra movement speed, the sprint speed, the slide distance for shotgun apes, the jumping factor. You can completely break people's ankles. You can break their necks. If you're on console where people have a much more difficult time looking up. If you're on M&K, you don't have a hard time looking up at all. You just whip your mouse up on the mouse pad. You can look up real quick. Controller players are like big dogs. They have a difficult time looking up, and that's no shade because I play both M&K and I play controller. But yeah, it just, man, if you watch any top tier hunter main who wears the Stompees doing trials carries or endgame comp, tournament play, whatever, there's a very good chance that if they're a hunter main that they are wearing Stompees, and you're gonna see how much quicker they move. You're going to see the type of plays that they make. It's just, you're going to see the neck breaking, the ankle breaking. You're going to see it all. It's so good. Bungie has alluded to the fact that they may in the future be nerfing the Stompees, which would both shock me and not shock me. It would shock me because they haven't been touched for forever. It seems kind of late in the game to nerf them now, but it would not shock me because they are so stupid good that most hunter mains in PvP, it's not even a thought. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going into PvP, Stompees, why not? There's no downside at all. Nothing, no downside. They're just perfect. They're so good. If you ever have a weekend where Xur is selling the Stompees, if you don't have them, you must pick them up immediately. If they have a good roll, then you're in the money, right? In the money. For PvE, the only real reason that you would put on the Stompees would be to perform better in a jumping puzzle. Like if you're in, God, I don't know, the outer space portion of the Deepstone Crypt raid, and you just want to do better at a jumping puzzle. You're falling off the map a lot, embarrassing yourself in front of your friends. Oh, look at Dave, can't do the jumping puzzle, idiot. And just put Stompees on, you'll be fine. But that's really the only, or if you're maybe doing some kind of PvE speedrun content, I'm sure the Stompees will help you there. But for normal traditional players looking for extra damage, looking for extra utility, extra viability, Stompees can help you in jumping puzzles, or if you're trying to cheese an endgame boss location, if there's some kind of area of the map where you can jump out of the map, I'm sure Stompees can help you with that. But for the most part, 100% intended for PvP, and it does the job very, very well. Gemini Jester. Dodging will disorient a nearby enemy and temporarily removes their radar. So the Gemini Jester is quite good in PvP, but it requires a lot of, at the top level, it requires a lot of coordination, and it requires a little bit of practice. Now, I think you're probably wondering, well, what the hell are you talking about? All you got to do is dodge, and then you take their radar away. What do you got to practice about that, right? Well, the ceiling potential that you can hit with the Gemini Jester depends on who is wearing the armor and what they are communicating to their team, right? If you're a blueberry in Trials, or if you're in the freelance solo queue Trials playlist, it's hard to communicate to your teammates if you're off microphone or whatever, if you can't communicate with your fellow random queue players. Hey, I've just taken the enemy's radar away. You know what I mean? That's very crucial information to relay to your team. If you're playing Trials with a team and you have cracked communication, if you are well practiced together, you can let them know, hey, I'm taking radar down in 3, 2, 1, bam. And then your teammate knows enemy radar has been pinged offline. They now have an opportunity to swing in, make a push, make a play, take advantage of it. The ceiling potential is very, very high. I've mentioned before, people play differently when they have their radar either effed with or flat out denied. They'll panic a little bit. They'll play on tilt. They're looking around. They're expecting a push. You know, you can slow play people. My friend Drewski, again, who is a dedicated hunter main in PvP, he has been rocking the Gemini Jester quite a lot lately. If you want to watch him take advantage of that, check out his Twitch channel, which I think is twitch.tv/Drewskis. And I know a lot of people traditionally, sorry if you can hear that, there's a lawnmower outside my window. A lot of people pair Gemini together with top tree tether or bottom tree tether because they think it's a natural pairing with, oh, take their radar away, and now I'm also camouflaged, right? Which is not bad. Definitely a thing you can do. But there are people out there who pair it together with Arcstrider or what have you, you know, mid-tree void, whatever. You don't need to pair it together with a camo class. You can pair it together with Golden Gun if you want. I mean, like, it's just a very interesting thing to do. You know, Golden Gun mains, when you pop Golden Gun, what does the enemy team do? They all run and hide, right? Or they just run. And if you have Gemini Jester, maybe you could do a more efficient push with your Golden Gun, just because, yeah, they know that you're coming, but they don't maybe necessarily know from where. There's a lot of high ceiling potential with the Gemini. I think it's not difficult to use, but it's difficult to reach the ceiling potential of well-coordinated radar depletion and pushing with your team. So for PvP, I would put it as very, very viable at the high level. For PvE, you can do a quick little dodge and disorient enemies the way you would with like a concussive grenade launcher, but only when they are within the range of the Jester activation window, right? Like, it's not going to be a cross map type of thing. I think it has the same window or the same range as a weapon with threat detector, which I believe is around 14, 15 meters. So Yeah, you can make it work for PvE content. You want to disorient a bunch of people near you. It could definitely work. For endgame PvE content like GM Nightfalls, you got to be careful, as I've mentioned, because you don't want to be too close to enemies very often because they can melee you and do a buttload of damage, flat out kill you with a ground pound. Is just very strong. So you want to kind of avoid being too close in endgame PvE content. But that being said, the ability to concuss any enemy within a 15-meter range, it's not bad. Viable for PvE for sure. Frostees, okay. Increased grenade, melee, and dodge regeneration when sprinting, and dodging will increase your sprint speed. So the Frostees are a very good baseline exotic. If you're a new hunter player and you're looking for something to equip that, you know, doesn't require a lot of thought, you're kind of afraid of harnessing the power of Stompees. Oh, moving too quick, I can't handle it. I don't know. If you're a new player and you're looking for a very, very starter kit hunter exotic, the Frostees are probably that hunter exotic. I've talked to a lot of people who believe that they're kind of a little bit of a siren's call depending on how much you use your abilities. I've heard it described as good, not great. But for right now, it is top tier if you are a Revenant hunter and you are taking advantage of Shatter Dive, which again, stupid good right now. So powerful. It's getting nerfed in 2 months in December, but until that point, the ability to run around and charge up your dodge, charge up your Glacier Grenade by just running is just so easy to perform. And with the strength of Shatter Dive right now, Frostees will remain top tier in PvP until December. And if there's any ability in the future where hunters can really just take insane advantage of an ability to the degree of Shatter Dive, Frostees will always be top tier for PvP. But hopefully in December, they go down in viability a little bit. For PvE, even though it's not as the same level as maybe the Sixth Coyote or the Omnioculus, it's still very viable because as long as you're running, you are recharging both your dodge and your melee, which means that you can use the Frostees to take advantage of camo abuse in endgame PvE. So therefore, on that factor alone, highly ranked for PvE. Alrighty, the Bombardiers. Dodging leaves behind an explosive that detonates after a short delay, damaging targets around it and creating a secondary effect based on your subclass energy type. So if you're an arc player and you dodge, you get a bomb that blinds people. If you're a solar class, you leave a bomb that can burn people. If you're void, you leave a bomb that suppresses people. And if you are a revenant, you will leave a bomb that slows down targets. So I'm going to get an angry letter from my very good friend Cool Guy, who I hope you're following, but I'm going to put the Bombardiers at mid tier. I can hear him angrily typing already. Can you do great things with the Bombardiers? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. You can make a lot of fun plays. You can take a lot of shotgun apes completely by surprise. You can use them defensively to great effect to counteract people trying to, go too hard with a Fellwinter, with a Chaperone, with a Duality, whatever. Are they incredibly user-friendly? And do they have an easy learning curve? No. I feel like a lot of people would just be like, you know what I would rather do? Put on the Stompees and just jump 100 feet over the head of a shotgun ape and break their neck and just jump over them and run around the map like an insane, coked out Wolverine than rather put thought or planning into a piece of exotic armor that requires as much setup as the Bombardiers do. If there was ever a day where the suppression factor got buffed, I may put them on. But for right now, if you didn't know, when you drop that void bomb that suppresses people, that works in suppressing every ability except a roaming super. How sad is that? If you hit an enemy roaming super with a suppression Bombardier blast, they will not lose their super, which is so heartbreakingly sad. I get why that's a thing. If that ever were to change, they would immediately become god tier in PvP. But for right now, no. For PvE, the Bombardiers have a lot of competition, but they are viable. Again, if you're one of the few, the proud, the Blade Barrage Hunter mains in PvE, the fact that you can burn enemies with the Bombardiers, what we've already talked about, you can take advantage of the knife trick, the whole Blade Barrage class, circles around making sure enemies are burning, and then you get your knife trick back quicker, you get your dodge back quicker, all that crap. So there is potential there if you are a Blade Barrage main, but I don't think that a lot of people are going into endgame content with the Bombardiers and Blade Barrage. But hey, if you're ever in a solar burn activity, you could definitely get a lot of viability there. Coming to the end here, we have the Star Eater Scales. You gain additional super energy from orbs you pick up. While your super energy is full, picking up an orb of power will overcharge your super, causing you to gain a burst of healing when cast and a bonus to your super damage. At maximum overcharge, you will also gain an overshield. So for PvP, the only real thing you could do to take advantage of it would be to gain additional super energy from the orbs of power you pick up. Maybe if you're at the end of a round in trials, this would be a lot of micromanagement, But every time you're about to get an orb of power, you're like, oh, wait, let me put on my Star Eater real quick. Too much micromanagement for some people. I think players would rather throw on the Stompees and forget about the micromanagement. They'll just fly around like a crazy person. But for PvE, the Star Eater scales are quite good. They used to be epic good, like silly, game-breakingly good. When they first came out, people were worried that the raid would be botched by Star Eater, but they got tweaked a little bit. I have the damage numbers. I'll put them up on screen right now. There's 8 levels of damage for Star Eater, capping out at about an extra 70% damage if you reach level 8, which is good. Having a super hit 70% harder, that's not bad. And the fact that you can, you gain extra super energy from orbs that you pick up with the Star Eater, that's pretty good. If you pair it together with the Power Preservation Armor mod, which I have mentioned, you can make many more orbs. And if you have friends with the Star Eater, then they're getting many more orbs, and those orbs are feeding them even harder. So, yep, I know there's a lot of competition in endgame PvE content from abusing camo and staying alive, but for, raids and stuff where you're trying to put out as much super damage or whatever as you can, Star Eater scales, I can talk, very viable for endgame PvE content. I would rank them highly. Finally, we come to the Radiant Dance Machines. What a heartbreaker these boots are. Activating your dodge ability while near a target will allow you to dodge additional times for a short period of time. So the Radiant Dance Machines, when I first heard about them, when they were coming back to D2 with their different upgraded perk, I read the description and immediately thought, these are going to be broken. And almost immediately they were, and they were taken off the market, because the reason I thought they would be broken was because if you have the armor mod Dynamo and distribution paired together and you dodge near an enemy, you're able to get a chunk of your super back. It's what people were doing in Trials in Season 14. Threat detector on the map. Oh, someone's nearby. Activate Warlock Rift and Dynamo. Boom. Now your Chaos Reach is closer to being charged. Back when Chaos Reach was the end-all be-all Trials meta. So same thing with RDM. When it came out, there was immediately a clip. I think it was from my friend Swifty, who in Gambit, he was behind the glass of the pregame Gambit lobby where you're near the other team. And he just immediately spamming Hunter dodge, and the fact that he had Dynamo and distribution before he even got transmatted into the game of Gambit. He had like half a super bar charged already, which you can't have that, right? You can't have that. So they got taken off the market for a while. And when they got brought back, I believe now you can only get Dynamo or distribution to kick in from the first dodge in a multi-dodge chain. So it doesn't matter how many times you dodge with RDM. I think you're only going to take the dynamo distribution buff from that first dodge. And because that is a thing, I think that the RDMs are not too wild in either PvP or PvE. For PvE especially, I think a lot of people would much rather rock Star Eater. You're probably not going to try to out-juke a Dreg or anything like that in PvE content. Yeah, you can be tricky and harder to bring down with multiple dodge chaining, but for PvE, I think most people would probably just rely on camo abuse if that's the path they want to take. For PvP, yeah, you can break ankles a little bit with multi dodge chaining, but the thing is that in order to take advantage of the multi dodge, you have to be near a target. So it's not like if there was an enemy far away and I wanted to do a multi dodge chain to close the gap and roll up on him within from 25 meters to 5 meters before I can pull off a shotgun shot. That would be interesting, but you can only pull off the multi-chain dodge if you are within the activation range, which I think is relatively short. So once you're already that close to an enemy, you might not necessarily need the extra amount of dodging that the RDM provides to your hunter. And again, this is probably something you could see coming a mile away, is that obviously RDM faces horrible competition from Stompees, which are another pair of exotic leg armor, which completely blows RDM 100% out of the water. If there was a pick between the two, any top tier PvP hunter main will without question pick the Stompees. Now in the future, Stompees are getting nerfed. Maybe. I think Bungie has alluded to that in a TWAB. So depending on what could happen to the Stompees, or if they ever buff the RDM, maybe you don't need to be within range to take advantage of the multi-dodge chain, which could be fun. But until that day, I would not be too wild about putting on Radiant Dance Machines. I think they could do a lot better. I don't rank them personally very high for PvP at all, and kind of an afterthought for PvE. And there you go, ranking every piece of Hunter exotic armor in both PvP and PvE. These videos take a long time to put together, so do me a favor and click the like button if you got any information out of today's video. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We are close to 400,000, which is freaking awesome. So hyped about it. If we get to that number before the end of October, I'll do something. I don't know what I'll do. We'll do something special. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Check out my other videos on the channel. If you dug today's video, check out the Warlock version where we go over every Warlock armor in the game for PvP and PvE. And if we get a certain number of likes on today's video, I will finish the trilogy and we'll do the Titan. So do me a favor, click like, click subscribe. Thank you all so much for your support. Check out the Patreon page. Quick shout out to our high tier Patreon pledges. You're wonderful. All of you showing your support. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.